So my friends, today we have these two parables of our Lord, which are part of the selection of parables that St. Mark gives us in his account. And there's a few points that we can learn as we reflect on these. So the first parable we heard is about the seed that is scattered, and the man rises and sleeps night and day, and that it's of its own accord, the seed yields its fruit. And so I think that this is important for us with regard to our spiritual growth, our spiritual life, how we're growing in discipleship of our Lord Jesus, namely that it's not our spiritual life and the way that we live our faith is not just like a one-time euphoric religious experience and then we're just kind of always chasing that high. Rather, it's meant to be a consistent, everyday fidelity. And that, honestly, everyday fidelity is going to be way more effective for the long-term growth and the long-term success of our following Jesus than having kind of major, huge, euphoric experiences. We need to be consistent. That's what we want, day and night, consistency. That there's really no shortcut when it comes to holiness. There's not like, I'm just gonna do this one thing and boom, I'm super holy. I'm learning, and I've learned consistently these last couple years, as I frequently talk about trying to drop some pounds, particularly now in the summer season when I can't hide behind a bulky sweater. And it is, but like, oh yeah, I tried a new diet, and I did it for like 24 hours, and I didn't see the results when I weighed myself the next morning, so give up. And then I go through, poor Deacon Daniel's gonna learn living with me, the whole eating plan changes every couple days as I'm on some new plan to drop weight. But look, at the end of the day, it's diet and it's exercise, and it has to be every day. Like, that's it. That's what is tried and true and works. There's no magic thing. And same with our spiritual life. There's no magic thing. I want to grow in holiness. I want to become closer to Jesus. And so I'm just going to do this one thing, and then everything is supposed to change. Look, I love some of these different conferences that happen that can be a good jump start, right? A good big moment could be a jump start, but it can't be the daily thing. So like the Steubenville conferences where thousands of teenagers this summer are going to encounter our Lord in a deep way, those are incredible moments. And they're a weekend. It's Friday to Sunday. And so many of these kids have life-changing experiences. But if it's going to last, then it has to be followed up on Monday morning with some prayer. As we followed up on Tuesday, as we followed up with Sunday Mass the following Sunday. It's not like a mountaintop experience and boom, I'm holy. Similarly, there are churches, our brother and sister Christians, Protestants, who, like, that's what Mass is about. Not Mass, because they don't have Mass. That's what their services are about, right? It's this euphoric, let's have the rock band and the lighting and the testifying and the hands in the air. And look, every now and then, like, those things, okay, they could be a good jump start. But I'm going to guess that if we were to say 20 years from now, I don't know if the same people are going to be at the same rock band church services, or even if those churches are going to still be in existence. But 20 years from now, provided we don't have any more crazy changes in our city, some of you may be sitting in the same exact pew at the same exact Mass, at the same, like, it could happen, right? That we're here. There's consistency, and that's good. And so when we want to be inviting people in, and we sometimes need that mountaintop experience to invite them in, but then it's got to be the day and night, the everyday consistency. The second point from the second parable is that because it's consistent and because we're doing these things every day, we can't overlook the value of the little things, right? It's the little things every day. It's not these big things. No one that's in shape is like, I'm gonna run a full marathon every single day. Maybe some people do, but I don't know, like, no, a marathon's like a one-time thing or a couple times a year at most. But like, hey, today I'm gonna go out for a 3 or 5 or 10 mile run. Like, that's what I'm gonna do to stay in every day. And if we try to say I've gotta run 26 miles every single day, you're not gonna do it. It's not sustainable. Similarly with our life of faith, is that we can't overlook the value of the little things. Little things. Every day. It's just it's in all the small stuff. Because those small things, like the mustard seed, like mustard seeds they're the size of poppy seeds. Like they're these tiny little things, and they become these big bushes. It's the little, we sow these little things, and we do them every day. Just small stuff. Being just a little smile with someone that annoys us. Just, maybe here in Connecticut, stopping at yellow lights. So not stopping, but really slow, not running the yellow light, right? But actually like slowing down and preparing to stop at the red instead of yellow, meaning go faster and get through it. And there's little ways of acting. We could do just little things. And then we offer them to God with love. St. Josemaria Escriva, one of the saints of the 20th century, said, if we do little things with love of God, then there are no little things because everything becomes big, right? When we do even the smallest little thing, and this was the big teaching of St. Therese of Lisieux, the little flower, one of probably the most popular saint of the entire 20th century, right? Even if it's just like picking up a little paper clip on the ground. Someone dropped a paper clip. Let me just pick that up and put it where it belongs. Little thing, but I could do it out of love for God. Well, then it becomes a big thing. Then we start noticing all these ways that we can, every single day, having thousands of opportunities to do little things for love of God. And so, if we're going to grow in holiness, it has to be consistent. It has to be in the baby steps, small incremental ways. And then the third point is kind of the meta-narrative, is that Jesus, when he's speaking to the crowd, we hear he's talking in parables, in ways that the crowd can understand, but that he ends up explaining what he's talking about to his disciples in private. When we come to Mass, when we're part of the crowd, and when you're speaking to a crowd, you kind of have to speak to the common denominator, right? Whenever we have a big crowd of people, it's the common denominator. We gather as the people of God every Sunday as a parish family, and we worship God. We listen to the teachings of scriptures. We have them opened for us by our priest or deacon. And above all, most importantly, we receive our Lord, body, blood, soul, and divinity in Holy Communion. But this worship, this is our common denominator, but we need to not have this be all that we do. Rather, we hear that Jesus in private explained everything to his disciples, that they would be able to ask him questions, and that he would personally explain it to them. And so each one of us, as disciples of Jesus, we each need to have that personal conversation with God, right? Every single day, we should have personal conversation. If somebody says to me like, well, I don't like the teaching of the church, or I don't understand the teaching of the church about this thing or that thing, the answer is not for me to, mansplain it. The answer is to, hey, have you talked to Jesus about that? Like, if you're concerned about this, if you don't like it, or you're confused, the first person you talk to is Jesus. Go talk to him. See, he'll explain it. Like, we can actually have one-on-one conversation with our Lord. And so that's something each one of us needs to do. We need to have that one-on-one conversation. We need to bring our questions, our concerns to the Lord. And while what we do on Sundays, is the high point, the Second Vatican Council calls the Eucharistic liturgy the source and the summit of the Christian life, right? So as the summit, this is the highest point. This is the best thing we could do. This is the best thing we do all week long, the gathering for our Sunday Eucharistic liturgy. But it's also the source. And what happens with the source? It's the stuff from where other stuff comes out, right? Stuff comes out of the source. It flows from the source. And so we should be praying every single day of the week. Every single day we should have conversation with Jesus. It flows from our encounter here in the Mass, and it leads back to it, with this being the summit of our activities. But every day we got to be praying. Like every single day. We could just take the Gospels and we could read one little story. We could read one or two little paragraphs from the Catechism of the Catholic Church, and we could just, talk to Jesus about it and have him explain it. And Jesus, I don't understand this. Let's talk about it. And he will. He speaks to our hearts. He instructs us. He helps us understand. And so we have to have that. It has to be personal. It has to be one-on-one. I'm not very good at golf. I like getting outside every now and again and hitting a ball. But for a while, I would hit the ball, aiming that way, and it probably would have hit Deacon Daniel, right? It'd go that way. It was dangerous for the people standing near me until someone was able to. I had like a 45-minute private lesson, and I'm still not good at golf, but the ball would generally go in that area. Maybe not where I wanted to, but generally that area. Because, there was a coach who was able to just say, hey, here's exactly what you're doing, which is why you're going to hit Deacon Daniel with the ball. Here's exactly what's happening. Here's exactly what you're doing. So just fix this little thing, right? One little personal coaching. That's what our Lord wants to do with us in our personal prayer. We get the common denominator. We get the big message at Mass for everyone. But then in our personal prayer, our Lord wants to say, hey, you know how every time this happens, this is the consequence? Well, here's what we could do to work on that. Here's how we could fix that. Here's ways that we can grow through that. Personal, very specific to us. That's what our Lord does in our prayer. So let's make that resolve. This is how we grow in the spiritual life. It has to be consistent every single day, not just chasing euphorias and emotional highs. It has to be in the small daily stuff, and it has to be personal, so that it's this one-on-one coaching with our Lord. That's how we grow in discipleship. That's how we grow to the heights of rich holiness that our Lord Jesus calls us to.